Glowtime is next week. What will Apple showcase at the event? It's all about Apple's new iPhone, and we're talking about what we expect with the iPhone 16 lineup in this episode of the Macworld Podcast. Welcome to the Macworld Podcast. I'm Roman Loyola here with Jason Cross.
Good morning.
And Michael Simon.
Hello, sir.
In case you didn't know, the Macworld Podcast channel is now live on YouTube. If you want to actually see us do the show, go to youtube.com/@MacworldPodcast and like and subscribe to the channel. The audio version is still available, so if you don't care to see what baseball cap Mike is wearing, or you don't care about Jason's cat, you can still use the audio podcast on wherever you get your audio podcasts.
That's to say the channel's live. We're not live. We very much have a net underneath this show as we do it.
That's true.
You don't want to hear the unedited version.
No. You don't want to hear
this actually takes us 7 hours to record. This all starts and stops.
Oh, that would be embarrassing.
Well, anyways, let's talk about Glowtime. So last week we talked about everything else that Apple might reveal at the event. So check out that episode. But today we're focusing on the iPhones, just those itself. We're basically going to go over what the rumors and reports have been floating around to give us an idea of what we might expect. So we're now on iPhone 16.
16, and it's 17 years. Is that right, Jason? 2007.
Yeah,
yes.
17
that's
years.
right.
So we're big. It was all S's, and we skipped the 2, and there was really no 1.
We skipped the
and
2. We skipped the 2 and the 9, and then there was XRs and XSs.
There was S's,
stuff.
and then there were no S's, and
yeah.
So we're on year 17, version 16.
iPhone 16. Yep.
Yeah. And we're still going to get a Pro set and a non-Pro set of phones, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
The
same as the 15 according to rumors.
Yeah.
Standard
the
iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Plus, iPhone 16 Pro, iPhone 16 Pro Max.
There's going to be some minor changes. The Pros are supposed to have slightly larger displays. The cameras are aligned vertically, but it's on the non-Pros instead of diagonally. But they're going to look like iPhone 15s for the most part. This is not a big overhaul year for the iPhone design.
Yeah, visually, yeah. It's going to look similar. As Jason said, the Pro is going to be slightly bigger. It looks like about maybe 1/10 of an inch, something like that, going up to 6.8 and change on the Pro Max, and about the same on the standard
and
Pro.
That could be, that's 1/10 of an inch diagonally for the display size. The body could be not even any bigger, and it's just pushing the bezels even slimmer. You're not going to look at these and say these are hugely different from the iPhone 15. The biggest difference will be,
unless you put them side by side. Honestly.
Yeah, the biggest tell will be the iPhone 16, the non-Pro. The cameras will not be sort of diagonally; they'll be up and down from each other. That'll be the easiest way just to tell at a glance. Oh, they've got the 16. Other than that, flat sides, the same curves, the same general thickness, the same sort of squared circle camera bump area. This is not an iPhone overhaul year.
This design started with the 12 with the flat edges and the larger camera bump in the top left, and it's kind of been similar. There's been tweaks, but the iPhone has been the iPhone basically for the last 12, 13, 14, 5 or 6 generations.
I hesitate to bring up next year's iPhone, but there's a rumor that there's going to be a major redesign with one of the phones. But we'll get to that phone some other time. That's not happening next week.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're hoping for a new look That's not happening really this year. So everything that's changing is mostly on the inside, I think. So we're still getting OLED displays, correct? On these screens, yeah.
They gotta go down, and they're going back to LCDs now. They're tired of giving us OLED.
Yeah, mini LEDs and stuff are not nearly sort of affordable or mass producible enough to be in the iPhone. They'll probably show up in something like an Apple Watch or an Apple Watch Ultra first, where they can be very small and they can be, and the volumes aren't the same. And so they're going to be the same thing. We might see on the Pro models the same sort of double stack display that they have in the new iPad Pros, which improves brightness or lets you get more brightness with less power, so that you can, that would improve battery life at any brightness really, but it also lets it get much brighter while still looking good. That's a possibility, but it's still OLED. What did they call that? They branded that, even though that's not something that Apple
was
invented.
It tandem OLED?
Yeah, I think it's
tandem
OLED or something.
Well, then they also call it is it Ultra Retina?
Yeah, they give it a name.
XDR Retina.
Yeah, Ultra Retina XDR.
Yes,
something like that. Ultra Retina XDR. It used to be Retina XDR, and then
there was Super Retina XDRs.
Super Retina,
Ultra Retina XDRs.
Tandem OLED. That's what Apple calls it.
Yeah.
High brightness over a large display, which we could see that on the Pro models.
Yeah. Yep. It's just basically two OLEDs kind of stacked on top of each other, where the top one's more transparent to let the light through. And that's quite possible for the big versions.
Less likely is the Pro stuff, the Pro display stuff coming to the non-Pro models, which is the ProMotion 120 hertz display, always on as well. Rumors say that it's probably not going to get that this time around, and there'll be a whole round of articles and complaints that say they should, and they should. We're not gonna offend Apple here. Like the iPhone 16 starts at $800. It should have 120 hertz.
All those $800 Android phones definitely have at least like a 90 hertz display or something. They at the very least always on, right? Because they've got all these widgets and stuff like that now, so they've got reasons to make the always on display there. So but it's not expected to. So that's another. It's one more year where we just look at something Apple's been behind in catching up with, and just going like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, it took them forever. It took them forever just to bring always on to the iPhone at all.
Yeah,
and now they branded it a Pro feature when there are like literally $300 Android phones that have always on displays.
So then another upgrade we're going to see are the chips inside.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pro models are going to get the A17 Pro.
No,
correct?
We're on 18.
You're one behind.
Yeah, the chip is like 2 higher than the iPhone model. It used to be that, or for the last few years, they've been doing like the iPhone 15 has an iPhone 15 Pro has the A17, and the non-Pro has the A16, that kind of thing. This year, they're expected to call them both A18, and there'll be an A18 and an A18 Pro.
Right.
But it's still kind of the same thing. That A18 is, I'm willing to bet, going to be very much like the A17 Pro that we have in the iPhone 15 Pro, just kind of made using a different manufacturing process from TSMC, the second gen process. It's going to be really close. It's going to be within a few percent. It's not going to have like massively more cores here or fewer cores there. I think it's going to be basically the A17.
Yeah, which makes sense because the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus right now use the A16, which was in the iPhone 14 Pro. So they brought that chip over to the iPhone 15. They didn't rebrand it. They could have, They could have just slapped A17 on that, but they didn't. Yeah. And gave the Pro models the A17 Pro. That was the first time they had a Pro branding for an iPhone chip.
Yeah, instead of calling it Bionic, they called it Pro.
Right. So it makes sense this year to kind of homogenize
that. They would probably have, if they're calling it Pro, they'll probably have a non-Pro version.
Right.
And so since they're probably taking the same chip, but using TSMC's newer, more economical manufacturing process to produce it, they're going to slap A18 on that, and then A18 Pro will be the one that has the new features. And we haven't heard any rumors that there's anything unexpected coming. It's going to be a faster neural engine and a faster GPU, and the CPU speeds are probably going to embarrass all the Android phones again. This is pretty much what we've seen for years. Nobody's picking up an iPhone and going, it needs to be faster. Like they've been so faster than they need to be for so long. The main thing is that they're all going to have 8 gigs of RAM, which is needed for the AI stuff.
Yep.
So the AI will not be limited just to the Pro models.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason. The A16 chip is 5 nanometers, and the A17 Pro is 3 nanometers.
Yes.
So it's going to be it's a slightly different. Yeah, so that was their first one. So this would be the first 3 nanometer chip for a non-Pro iPhone, which sounds more important than it is. But it's a different process that they're using to manufacture it.
There's TSMC's, what they'll call it, the second generation 3 nanometer or enhanced 3 nanometer or something like that. But it's basically TSMC's first 3 nanometer process was very expensive, didn't have great yields. They worked on a new version that more people would be able to use, better mass manufacturing, better yields, better cost, all that stuff.
Yeah, I just looked it up. So just a quick history. The A16 was that chip that they said was a 4 nanometer chip, but it wasn't a 4 nanometer chip. It was a 5 nanometer chip, and it was a whole marketing thing that they did. But so the iPhones, all the iPhones will have reportedly 3 nanometer A18 chips and 8 gigs of RAM, at least 8 gigs of RAM. Probably the Pros will probably have 8 gigs. There's not many reports that this year will increase to 12 yet.
Right.
Which is needed for Apple Intelligence mainly.
Right.
So the non-Pro ones will be slightly slower, but you probably wouldn't even notice that it was slower.
It's already that way. Like
it already is, right?
Like if you look at a benchmark chart, the A17 Pro is faster than the A16 Pro, and they added some things like that hardware ray tracing support in the GPU and stuff. But if you just pick up your phone and use it every day for all the things people use their phones for, it doesn't really feel different.
Yeah. I mean, you could pick up an iPhone 13.
Right.
And, as long as it's not loaded with stuff and slow, it feels the same.
We didn't know this when they were introduced last September, but it turned out that having the extra 2 gigs of RAM was the big differentiator.
Yeah.
Because all the iPhone 15 Pro models get Apple Intelligence, and all the regular 15s don't. So you never know what's going to, in the future, be the thing that lets you use some new feature that Apple comes up with down the line.
Yep. And the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max, they're the only iPhones other than the new ones coming out that will be able to run Apple Intelligence when iOS 18.1 arrives.
Yeah, all the 15 and 15 Pro, and then all the 16s and beyond.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you want that, you got to get a new phone, which Apple will promote the heck out of, believe me.
You probably will, like by the time, not in September, but by the time you start looking at other people's iPhones in February or whatever, with series all different and stuff, there'll be a meaningful difference in what you can do with a new iPhone for a change. Like it won't just be like, oh yeah, your photos are ever so slightly better when I zoom in or something. Like it'll be a literal like laundry list of features that you just don't get.
Yep.
Are the batteries in these phones going to be any bigger? Do we know anything about that?
Yeah, but
Maybe.
they are. One model is expected to have a slightly smaller battery, but the others are expected to be between 5 and 9% higher capacity. But don't read too much into that because battery life is this giant list of things, right? It's the processor, it's the radios and chips they use for the telecommunications and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that stuff. Don't look at, the battery's 6% larger, it's going to have 6% longer battery life. That's not necessarily true. It could be more. It could be not at all. So
Right.
it's
one
not
thing
the kind of change where you're like, wow, 20% larger battery. It's definitely going to have longer battery life. It's not. We're not there.
Yeah. If there's one thing Apple does year over year, it keeps its baseline and doesn't. Maybe it improves it by an hour.
Yeah, it always seems to be going up.
There's very few really.
There was a big jump a few years ago, and then it's been going up
to the 13
slowly. Every generation, they just get better at optimizing this or that. The cellular radios get more efficient, all these things. So it's been creeping up. I would not be surprised if it was just slightly longer battery life than before.
Yeah, and that's the other issue with Apple Intelligence is a lot of that runs on device. If you're doing that a lot, you're probably going to see a hit in battery life, and I'm sure Apple will quantify that in some way in its tech specs that, this is what is expected. It usually says 17 hours of talk time and 21 hours of web surfing or whatever. I'm sure that'll be part of it because that uses.
I'd be shocked if they listed
power.
that. Yeah, I'd be shocked if they listed some number like if you use Apple Intelligence or whatever. They won't list that for the same reason they don't list how many hours of gaming because it's a terrible number, right?
No, I get that.
It's really low.
But right. What I'm trying to get at is that it will, your phone will take a hit, and the extra percentage that Apple's adding here could be to kind of offset and mitigate that.
Yeah. Could be.
Jason brought up the satellite thing, which made me think of the wireless connectivity. Are we going to get Wi-Fi 7 in this phone?
One of the rumors say that the Pro models will. It's not necessarily a slam dunk that we will. We expect Wi-Fi 6E on all of them, and a big maybe. Yeah, which they have now, and a big maybe for Wi-Fi 7 on the Pro models. Yeah,
which won't matter to 99% of users because
it's you buy a phone if you're going to keep it for 3 or 4 years. It is nice. It is much more of a. It's a bigger deal than Wi-Fi 6E was, right? In the sense that once you get a Wi-Fi 7 router, it really does improve things all up and down the spectrum. It gives you better range. It gives you better, more solid, reliable connection because you're using all tri-band simultaneously and stuff. So Wi-Fi 7 is a bigger deal than Wi-Fi 6E was. It'll be nice for them to have it. Again, this is a thing that all the top tier Android phones have.
But like you said, the router has to be Wi-Fi 7 compatible too, right?
It does you no good to have. I mean, if you have Wi-Fi 7 phone and you're not connecting to Wi-Fi 7, then it doesn't matter. But you're going to start seeing that rolling out all over. All the new modems from your cable company and all that other stuff that you just get. They're going to start being Wi-Fi 7 over the thing. It's one of those future-proofing technologies where if you buy a phone every single year, you probably don't care yet. But if you're going to hold on to this for a few years, you're going to be glad. 2028, you're going to be glad your iPhone has Wi-Fi 7. So.
The Bluetooth spec hasn't changed, I don't think so.
No, it's all Bluetooth 5.3, whatever. I mean, they may be using a different Broadcom chip or something that is slightly more energy efficient, but don't expect any kind of major stat change there.
We don't even know what 5.3 does that 5.1 didn't do. Honestly, they upgraded all their devices over the last 15 months to 5.3, but I mean, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, it's good to have it, I guess, but we don't really know what it does or why it matters.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing that it's going to be obvious to most consumers what's different. It's about how they, most of it is about efficiency and reliability. It's things like how classifying what channels are used for which things and stuff like that. So 5.0 was the big leap that brought us through Bluetooth LE and stuff like that. There's some updates to the specs for Bluetooth LE audio, which nobody's really using right now. That's in some of the later versions of, like 5.1 or 5.2. These are not things that like consumers need to care about.
Yeah, and the Bluetooth 5 came with the iPhone 8, so it's not like that was recent. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and and which there's just like a lot of things, there's a lot of optional parts of the spec that get supported over time as Apple updates iOS, and unless you're like a hardcore developer or making Bluetooth accessories that are really advanced and use some of this stuff, it don't matter to you yet.
Yeah. Another thing that probably doesn't matter or that users don't care about is the modem. So there were rumors that Apple was working on its own modem.
Yeah.
But that may not happen this phone. It may not happen until next year.
Definitely not. Yeah, they're working on it. It's been 5 years already?
Yeah, they're way behind. Yeah. They bought Intel's modem business to make their own 5G modem, and they have not been able to make a satisfactory one.
Yeah.
It's as fast and reliable as they need it to be. So it's going to be Qualcomm's modem again. The non-Pro models will probably get the X70, which is what's in the iPhone 15s. We might get the X75 in the Pro and Pro Max. Really, Qualcomm's got a whole list of features, but what it boils down to is it's a little more energy efficient.
Right.
You still get the same sub-6 features and the same millimeter wave, and it's just supposed to use a little less power.
Yep.
We'll see.
Maybe we should talk about something people will actually care about. That's actually probably the most important feature to a lot of people is the camera.
Yeah.
So what's happening with the camera?
I'm willing to bet camera is going to be one of the big, big highlights of the event.
For sure.
Because they have a camera button, which will be on the right side of the phone down low, so that when you hold your phone in landscape orientation, it's right where a shutter would be. It's under your index finger where a shutter would be. It's going to be not a physical button that clicks in, but one of those capacitive buttons that uses haptics. And you'll be able to do all kinds of camera stuff with it. That's like how you use a DSLR camera, like you can half press the button to lock in focus or whatever. It's going to be an API. Different apps can do different things. You can slide your finger across it back and forth. I bet there'll be haptics to make it feel like it has little detents and stuff to do things like maybe zoom or adjust exposure or whatever you want to set that to do, or whatever your app makes that do. Apparently it will launch the camera app or launch whatever camera app you choose it to launch. One of the rumors is there'll be a menu where you get to choose, hey, if I press the camera button, what camera app launches? You can do all that.
Similar to the action button that launched last year.
Yeah, except I think it's just limited to photography and video apps.
Yeah,
I think Apple's going to limit that. All the models will get the action button too, not just the Pro models.
Right.
But so between that and some of the sensors getting slightly upgraded, the ultra wide is going to be 48 megapixels on the Pro. Apparently, the ultra wide on the non-Pro is going to be the same version that's on the Pro this year, so it's going to support macro and stuff like that. And the telephoto, the 5x telephoto, is going to come to the non-Pro, the non-Max. The Pro that's not Max is going to be not just the Max, the 5x telephoto. And some rumors say they'll have a further than 5x zoom on the Pro Max. That's iffy. So between all of that, plus whatever software stuff they do, would not surprise me if they had software surprises for photography and video. They've
often
done
do,
that.
If not always,
they often do.
Yeah.
Things like action mode. We had no idea that was coming, So stuff like that, I'm willing to bet photography is going to be like the thing. Like, this is a big leap in iPhone photography, the biggest leap ever.
And Apple Intelligence can play into that as well. Editing stuff, doing things that post-production stuff that would take you longer. You have to export to a Mac or something like that. You could do right on your phone just by hitting a button or a couple of steps. We see it on the Pixel. We see it on Samsung phones. I assume Apple will compete in that area as well.
Is the front-facing camera going to change at all? It hasn't changed in a while, has it?
I have not seen any rumors to suggest that the front-facing camera is changing this year. I think in the 17, it is supposed to get an upgraded, like the 48 megapixel or something like that in the front camera. That's like a next year thing. And that one's a sketchy rumor. So the only thing we've heard is that they're using a new technology for it's in the true depth sensor. It's one of the sensors in there. I think it's the thing that casts all the dots for the Face ID and stuff like that. Like, there's going to be some new thing that lets that be smaller so that it could have a smaller dynamic island or something. That might be on the Pro. It's not going to change functionally how anything works. It's just like that whole sensor array might get a little bit smaller. It's not like that affects the photos that you take with your front-facing camera.
There are rumors of a new color. It's going to be kind of like a bronze-like color.
For the Pro, that's what they're saying. That's going to replace the blue. The titanium blue is going to be replaced by, I think it's called desert gold or desert something. It's sort of with a desert.
Desert titanium or something like that. Whatever. They a lot like to put titanium in the name. It looks like bronze.
Yeah. And not like the
bronze.
rose gold bronze from like the iPhone 6 era. It's
more bronze,
like brassy bronze. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's very doesn't have a lot of gold to it. It's like a gold brown-ish,
like a dark
thing. And then the regular 16s, the non-pros, are going to be black, green, blue, pink, and white. The colors look pretty good. They look fairly bold. They look
after
like
this year. So this year's are like, it's pretty shocking when you see them in person how washed out the colors are. So this one looks like a return to like the iPhone like 12 and 13 era where they're really vibrant colors.
Bold colors.
And then you can put a case on it and you'll never know what color you have.
Anything else about the phones that we haven't covered?
We could talk about pricing real quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Similar to what we've seen, so probably $799 to start, and then the iPhone Plus will be $899. The Pro is where it might increase. So we saw the Pro Max increase last year from $1099 to $1199 with the introduction of that extra zoom lens or an enhanced zoom lens. And there's some rumors that the same thing will happen now that the smaller Pro is getting it. So they could start the Pros at $1099, but you'll probably get 256 gigabytes of storage, which is like a wash. You're paying extra, but you're getting that extra storage.
Yeah.
Tier.
What they basically did with the Max is they eliminated the cheapest storage option.
Yeah.
So like you got more you paid more, but you got more storage. So it was just like saying like you're not allowed to buy the 128 anymore.
Right.
Just, that may happen again. And there's also a rumor that the Pro models will have faster charging.
Yep.
Up to 40 watts plugged in and 20 watts with MagSafe.
We get that rumor like every year.
We get it every year. It's a recurring rumor. I think it's just one of those things where everybody really wants it to happen, and if they keep saying it, they'll will it into existence.
Yeah, Apple's just very conservative about its charging speeds. They don't want, it was a long time ago, but there's been issues with phones and charging and things. And there's so many of these out there. Like, they just want it to charge quickly, and it does.
Yeah.
But not dangerously fast.
After Batterygate, where first of all, Samsung had a bunch of problems with like exploding batteries.
That was a long time.
And then Apple had problems where they were like, well, we don't want that to happen to us. So when the battery's no longer able to supply sufficient voltage, we'll slow down the phone so it doesn't crash all the time because it's not getting enough voltage. And they didn't tell people about that. And then that was a huge lawsuit. And they fought that for years and lost and have to pay out a ton of money. So they don't want any of this stuff to happen again. So they're very concerned with battery longevity and not, putting too much stress on the battery and being clear about how much charge your battery has and if it's going to slow down your phone and all this other stuff. So, yeah, they're going to be the last one to make the battery charge a whole lot faster.
Yeah, the iPhone 16, they'll charge just fast enough where you want it to be faster. But they're, especially if you plug it in, you can get like 50% in like 20 minutes. Like they're fast.
There's rumor that at least in the Pro models, maybe in all of them, they'll have a different sort of the sheet that they put around the battery to connect it to the rest of the phone is going to be different, made out of different material, help spread the heat around better and conduct heat to the case and stuff better. If that's true, I mean, that's one of the limiting factors for how well they can charge phones. So if it's a new battery chemistry or new battery construction or packaging that lets them charge faster without building up as much heat, it's possible. There's not any kind of magic new battery technology here. They're not switching to some solid state battery that, is indestructible and charges real fast. So it would be nice to get it a little faster. It all slows down once you get over 70% anyways. So it slows down a lot.
What else? Are you guys excited to see the next wave of fine woven cases?
I almost wish they would double down on it just so we can all write articles to say whether they do and did they learn nothing.
I mean, they might. There's been rumors and reports, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple releases just another line of them. I'm sure that people buy them.
I would be surprised. They got roundly ridiculed for that, and the only real question is what are they going to replace it with? Because they have their silicone cases for the affordable ones. They need a new premium. You're paying $20 more for a case that costs us $1 more to make. We really need to. They need to have that market. I'm guessing it's a vegan leather thing they'll do because this was a replacement for leather.
For actual leather, yeah.
They didn't want to use actual leather anymore, but and I'd be interested to check that out. I think leather cases feel good. I think fine woven is dead.
That affects Apple Watch too because they make bands, fine woven bands for Apple Watch. So those didn't get quite as dragged through the mud as the iPhone cases did, probably because you're not hitting things and throwing them in your pocket.
I just don't think they were as popular either. I think far fewer people.
That could be too. Yeah.
Got them. They were terrible on the wallet, the MagSafe wallet. They made a fine woven that, and that because it's magnetically sticking to your iPhone and coming on and off. It both messed up. It got messed up going in and out of your pocket all the time, and it messed up your fine woven case on your iPhone by rubbing against it all the time, and then the rubs don't come out. It's just oof.
Yeah. And it wasn't those things like we thought at the beginning, like maybe over time they'll have like a charming old style. Like no, they just look old and beat up.
It's like if your kid was drawing on the wall with crayon, because it makes these like lines all over, right? And it's not like if you saw that and you just go like, well, if I just let him keep doing it for a couple of years, I'll just have this nice waxy patina. Like, no, it just looks, it's just a bigger mess.
That's pretty much what we're expecting from the iPhone lineup at the Glowtime event. That's on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So check your local listings as to when it's airing in your area if you want to watch it when it launches. It's not a live event. It is a pre-recorded event.
It's live in the sense that we all get to see it together for the first time.
During like the hour and a half of the event, you can't. I don't think you can go back and start from the beginning if you like jump in the middle.
Yeah,
I think.
That's true.
That's
true.
So
they live
like right after. It's within like seconds that they put the whole thing up for. It used to be like hours.
Yeah,
maybe
it's usually it's usually a few minutes now, but like
instantaneous.
Yeah. But it is a live streamed, pre-recorded event. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to watch it from the beginning after that, you have tune in like an hour and a half, 2 hours after the event started. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it's arguably Apple's biggest event of the year, even though we always know exactly what's coming because there's tons of rumors but the iPhone's big.
And there's often a surprise, like Dynamic Island or something. There's usually, if there's a surprise, it's a software thing. We just thought we were going to get a cutout. We were going to hole in a pill. And it's like, no, we're not. We got something for you.
Yeah.
And with Apple Intelligence, there's a ton of possibilities. And they're calling it Glowtime, which, speaks to all that stuff. So I think Apple Intelligence will obviously be weaved within the entire announcement. And as Jason says, I'm sure there'll be some surprises that we don't know. Not hardware, but software.
Even absent that, this is going to be one of the bigger ones that they've done in a while because obviously it's this and it's Apple Watch. But Apple Watch 10 is actually supposed to be a little bit different this time for change. And then we also have possibly 2 new AirPods coming and maybe even an iPad mini. So there could be more than just your usual, here's the latest iPhone and Apple Watch. Mm-hmm. Apple Watch really isn't any different. Have a good day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're always fun to watch. They have cool transitions. Craig Federighi does fun stuff. Like they're entertaining. Probably the most of the tech world. Like everyone does these now. But Apple's are fun.
Yeah, they do. There'll be a skit. Maybe.
Yep, I'm sure.
Last year, the year before, they did the skit with Mother Earth, where
that was last year. That was the whole Feinwoven thing. That was like part of all that.
Yeah. What was that? And it was all about their manufacturing,
the carbon neutral
and all this
stuff. But but that was part of that. Like we're 100% carbon neutral because of we're not using leather anymore.
Yeah. But we'll have full coverage of the event on Macworld.com. That does it for this episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 899. Thanks to Jason Cross.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michael Simon.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to you, the audience. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to the Macworld Podcast in the podcast app, on Spotify, on YouTube at the Macworld Podcast channel, or through any other podcast app. If you have any comments or questions, send us an email at podcast@macworld.com or contact us through X, that's @Macworld, or on Threads, that's @Macworld_HQ, or on the Macworld Facebook page. Join us in the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about the latest in the world of Apple. See you next time.